Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung, and class is now in session. Quick show date announcement. I am going to be in St. Louis, Missouri from, let's see, I guess I'll be there from Thursday through Saturday. So find me at the Flyover Comedy Festival. Their schedule and ticket link is on flyovercomedyfestival.com, I assume. Just look up Flyover Comedy Festival. If you're in St. Louis, Missouri, I would be very happy to see you. So please come out and support the comics, support the community, or don't. I mean, it's up to you. Whatever, it's your weekend, right? You should enjoy it however you please. I went to a Sidekick today. I'm recording this on Sunday. So I went to a Sidekick today for the first time in my life. There are a lot of things that I did for the first time this week. I went to play mini golf yesterday for the first time in my life. That was super fun. And I'm not too bad at mini golf. The person who took me to mini golf, like she's been playing for decades, like since high school, and she only beat me by 2 points. So what does that tell you? Tells you that I'm pretty good at mini golf. And that was fun. And today I went to a Sidekick for the first time in my life because I went to Venice Beach. I think I mentioned this. If I didn't, I'm doing the Artist's Way workbook at the moment, and they tell you to go on an artist's date once a week. So I went to Venice Beach today just to walk around. I was planning on reading, but I didn't end up reading. Oh, and the other thing was I had to go to Blick, the art supply store, to buy modeling clay because I want to play with modeling clay. And I went to Venice Beach, and there was this psychic sign like on the street. So I called them, and there was this old lady who picked up, and she's like, "Yeah, where are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm outside." And she's like, "Yeah, come on up. Palm reading is $20." So I was like, "Okay." Went in for a palm reading, and you know, she said some interesting stuff. For one, she said that I am very quick with my decision making. She said that if I ever overthink, then I'm ruining everything, so that I should not think, but I should just go with my feelings, just go with my gut. And there's some truth to that. Like if I think too much, then it's the worst. Like I get immobilized and everything goes to shit. Um, the other thing she said was that I have a deep spiritual and psychic energy that I am not that public about. That's also true. I guess nowadays it's not so true. I talk about it on my podcast increasingly, but yeah, I am private about it only because the people that I share that stuff with, they always told me that I was wrong or that I was lying. Like I remember when I was 18, 17, 18 years old, I was dating this guy, and I told him that I have a tendency to be able to predict if a phone call is for me. Like, those house phone calls. I mean, we don't have them anymore, but like the house phone, whenever it would ring, if the call was for me, I would be able to sense it. And when I told him this, he was just like, "Yeah, I don't believe you." So I just stopped telling people about that because it just made me feel stupid. Precognitive dreams. That's what they're called. It's basically when you dream about your future and it ends up happening. It's like a predicting kind of thing. And that keeps happening to me. It happened to me 2 weeks ago, and it happened to me again this past week. Um, it was very interesting. Like, for instance, I had this dream that my car was too full, like it had too many people, but there were other people who needed rides. So I saw my friend make a U-turn, and I was basically asking my friend to take these other people home. But in the end, like everybody managed to get home, so it was fine. Like I didn't have to go in and meddle. But the day of my show, I had a show that I produced. I was giving all these people rides, and my car was full, but there were 3 other people who needed rides. And I was telling one of them who lives in North Hollywood, I was like, "Why don't you just stick around and wait? Because I have a feeling that Sean is gonna pull up." And Sean lives in North Hollywood, so he could just give you a ride. But he was just like, "Nah, I'm just gonna go home. I'll just take the train. It's no problem." And he just left. And then, literally a minute later, Sean made a U-turn and he pulled up and he was like, okay, bye. And I was like, oh, can you give David a ride? And he's like, yeah, of course. But David had gone, so Sean couldn't give him a ride. And it's like, it's uncanny how often this is happening and with such frequency and with such accuracy. And they're not like major things. I'm not predicting crises. I'm not predicting major events. They're very small, minor, benign. And I told my mom about this because I wanted to hear from her to see if maybe she had this gift or this kind of ability. And my mom just basically said, yeah, she has some dreams like that, but she just doesn't think much of them, and she told me not to think too much of it. And honestly, I just regretted telling her about it. I was like, you know what, this is like a very special thing, I feel like, that I'm acquainting with, and I regret sharing it with her because I don't want to share it with people who can't appreciate it. I only want to share it with people who will appreciate it and who fucking believe me and who support me. So I decided I'm not gonna share things like that with her anymore because it's too sad. It makes me sad. And you know what? The fucked up thing is my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, she has this gift and she's very much in tune with it and aligned with it because she's Buddhist and she goes to the temple. And my grandmother, like, she has the feels, basically. She can sense these things. Um the psychic also told me not to wear metal anymore, so I removed my favorite Majuri earrings. Like, I used to have all these earrings, but I removed them. She told me that metal is blocking some of my energy, so she told me to not wear metal on my body. So I immediately ordered a bunch of plastic earrings because I love earrings. What else? She told me that I have a tendency to fall for Scorpios, and that's very much the truth. Like, I dated no, I dated 4 Scorpios in a row, and I was into all of them. Like, I was crazy about all of them, and they all were the worst, most toxic people for me. My ex-best friend was also a Scorpio, really toxic, like one of the worst people for me. But I tend to be attracted to Scorpios very much. Um, she told me that I'm gonna be encountering another Scorpio within the month, and told me that if I meet them, to not judge them based on my previous experiences with Scorpios. So she was like basically saying give them a chance. And she also told me that I'm gonna encounter a Libra, but that that relationship doesn't have any potential. So she told me to let it go, which is weird. Like, I don't really ask people about their birthdays and their horoscopes, so I don't even know if I encountered a Libra. I don't think I did, but it's just funny. She told me that I'm a highly creative person, that I am a writer at heart. She told me to start journaling, which is funny because I've been journaling for years. I'm already a published writer. Like, she was very accurate about that. She told me that I can make money with my writing, and that's also true. I've made some money with my writing, but she was telling me to really get disciplined and focus on it. So I am going to concentrate on that. And what else? She says some other stuff about longevity. I have a very long life ahead, and I don't know. She also said that I'm very lucky. She said that I have a few interviews lined up. She said I have 3 interviews lined up. And that's true. I have an interview tomorrow morning. So when this podcast is live, I will be interviewing for a job I really want in New York at a university for a very coveted position. I've been vying for this job for months. I've been writing about it for months. I contacted all my friends in New York and in LA and my fucking mom. And I was like, can you please, you know, ask for this? Like, I really want this. And, yeah, I think my chances are good. I think I have a good shot at it. So I'm going to give it my all and let's hope for the best. Today I'm going to talk about the show One Spring Night. For those of you who don't know, One Spring Night is written and directed by the same people who wrote and directed Something in the Rain, which we've all discussed. You have the same ensemble cast pretty much. The only person who's swapped out is the woman. So instead of Son Ye-jin, you have Han Ji-min, and you still have Chung Hae-in in it. The mother plays a radically different role in One Spring Night. So when we're watching There's Something in the Rain, Kyu Hye-yeon's character was very toxic. She was basically a misogynistic woman. But for this show, she plays the opposite. She's very passive, and she is almost like an abused woman. She has this like domestic abuse victim kind of aura or energy around her. And her husband is kind of a monster. He is. He is so obsessed with status and titles and money that he is willing to pawn off and sell off his 3 daughters to anybody who has money and status. And of course, his eldest daughter is a victim of domestic abuse, and sexual assault by her own husband. And, yeah, like, he's basically telling her, like, "You should stay with your husband because he has money and he's rich and he has status and blah, blah, blah." So it's a deep exploration on that and basically how a woman is supposed to fight through that kind of social gaslighting and stand on her own 2 feet and hang on to what it is, what her inherent self-worth is, what her inherent value is. And oftentimes it's unfortunately, I feel like this is the unfortunate message that these TV shows, it's coming from another man, right? So in this case, Chung Hae-in. I mean, he basically had the exact same role for Son Ye-jin's character in There's Something in the Rain, but that's something I kind of disagree with. I wish there were shows where the female protagonist who is suffering the same kinds of abusive circumstances, where she sort of figures out a way out without a man intervening. How does she do it through other means? And this show also uses a lot of Rachel Yamagata music in it, and honestly, it was too much. It was like Rachel Yamagata overload for me personally. Han Ji-min and Chung Hae-in do not have chemistry. Okay, so for There's Something in the Rain, Son Ye-jin and Chung Hae-in had perfect chemistry. It was almost like Hyunbin and Son Ye-jin kind of chemistry. I mean, it's just a testament to how great of an actress Son Ye-jin is, honestly. I think she could just adapt to anybody, and she just always gives a perfect performance. But Han Ji-min, who is a very, very gifted and talented actress, she and Chung Hae-in do not have chemistry. There were so many awkward scenes and moments because they just lack chemistry, and that was really driving me insane. But nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoyed this show because it addresses some very important things when it comes to how patriarchal and misogynistic a society can be and how that affects young women and it affects their family, right? Like, there are 3 sisters on this show. All of them, they're very close, and all of them are affected when one of them is suffering. Like, all 3 just feel for one another, and that just really goes to show how deep this stuff runs. Um, in any case, I thought it was a decent drama. I don't think it was as good as There's Something in the Rain, but I respect it for what it is. Today's guest is Kristal Adams. She is a very talented comedian. I mean, she's a beast, honestly. She did JFL. She is a writer consultant on Netflix. She is a hilarious comedian. She's a brilliant writer, and she is immensely wise. That's the biggest takeaway from my talk with her, how deeply wise she is, how analytic she is, how sharp she is. Like, I was really enamored by Crystal's mind, genuinely. And I loved some of the things that she mentioned, including how sensitive comedians are and how much calculating they need to do, how they absorb everything. And honestly, though, talking about comedy, like nerding out on comedy, was like my favorite thing with Crystal. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, I learned a lot from it. And I also got emotional while talking to her on this episode, especially when we're talking about like brothers and parents, like family stuff. And that's how I know that like some of that stuff still weighs heavily on me. It just does. I think family stuff will always stay with us to some extent. In any case, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. So let's talk to Crystal Adams. Yeah. Um, okay, so you've been there 2 years, no AC.
No AC. Yeah, so I would really like to live in Glendale. That would
Oh,
be my
yeah.
preference.
Yeah. Glendale's dope. I love Glendale.
Yeah.
Alright.
He seems to think that it's not that great, and I'm like, I don't know what you mean. Like,
Yeah, what is it that you like about Glendale?
Well, I think we could get I think our dollar would go further
Uh-huh.
there.
Yeah.
You know, get a pretty nice bedroom, whereas like the two bedrooms here, like in order to get something as nice as what you could get in Glendale, you're paying like $500 more a month.
Yeah.
Like we just saw two bedrooms that are in our area that we're in now, like kind of nearby,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that are in our budget just look like shit. They
Yeah.
look like crap. It's
No.
not good.
Yeah. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like where you live. You want to live in a place that you feel good in, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. I love where we live now. It's just like it's out of our budget to be in a
Mm.
place that has more space with AC and
Yeah,
parking.
for sure. Those to me
Mhm.
are like non-negotiables in LA. Parking, a must. AC, a must. Laundry on site, a must. Like to me, those are
Mhm.
non-negotiables. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what
are
part of town are you in right now?
I'm in the valley. I'm in the fucking
In the valley.
valley.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the dollar stretches far here in the valley. That's why I live here. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
like a lot of people give me shit for living here, and I used to feel like ashamed of it, but I'm like, all of you guys live with like 9 other people in Echo Park, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I have my own fucking apartment like a true adult, so go
Yeah.
fuck yourselves.
Exactly.
I don't know how some of these comics do it, like the ones that live with a bunch of other comics. I'm like, how? Like that sounds like a nightmare. I don't think I could
It
do
is a
that.
nightmare.
Oy.
It really is. I think we really got sold a raw deal in so many respects in terms of what is expected of comics and then what is we're expected to like put up with living standard
Hmm.
wise. I mean, it's literally the reason why I don't tour.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
you talk with comics and they're like, oh, yeah, I just did all these shows. And they're like, oh, are you going out? I'm like, well, where did you stay when you went? He was like, my car. I'm like, yeah. Does that even vibe with you? Can you even imagine me sleeping in my car?
It's they don't get it. Like as women, like we have vaginas, you know? We have
Yeah.
vaginas. We can't just be out, you know,
Yeah.
in a car, on a mattress in somebody's living room that we don't know. We can't just do that, you know? Like,
And I literally, and I think people think it's getting better, but I just read a horror story that got posted in a couple of Facebook groups of a woman that like tried to stay with a comic in San Francisco, and then it was clear like he was looking for something physical in exchange for her staying there.
that happens all the time.
Yeah, and people are like they don't understand, like they take it such for granted.
Yeah, yeah. Like even I mean, did you ever do this? Like, I don't know, it was like this romantic idea. I was like, when I'm in my 20s, I want to do like a cross country trip. Like, have you done this?
I never did. I did one road trip with a group of friends, but I've
Okay.
never done a cross country trip.
Yeah. So that's like this, like, romantic kind of concept that like American novelists had, right?
Yeah.
Like white boys, basically, you know,
Uh-huh.
who wrote these fucking novels like On the Road by
Yeah.
Kerouac and shit, you know. And it's like he got to do that because he was white and a man, you know.
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
I was moving from New York to LA, I drove cross country alone. And I was like, I'm doing it, but I was terrified the whole time. I was like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what racist piece of shit I'm gonna see on the road. I don't know what fucking pervert I'm gonna meet on the road. Like, I was on the road, but I was
Mhm.
very much isolated and just staying in my hotel room. Like, I didn't even go out to eat at restaurants. I would just, go through drive-throughs. It was all for my safety and protection, you know? So, it's a very
Yeah.
different experience. Mm, mm.
Yeah. I have seen a couple of TikTokers like and women and I'm like power to them. They're like doing the van life and like being very cute and doing photo shoots and I'm like but Not me. Like I'm gonna watch. Like you've got your setup and it looks really cute and like idealistic, but this
Mhm.
is not reality. I mean, like literally a woman. Like we're finding people out in the wilderness that
Yeah,
have gone missing still. So,
all the time, and they're always women.
yep.
Always women. Gabby Petito.
Hmm.
Recently, this Korean American chick from New Jersey.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Actually, I was in Joshua Tree with Kristen a couple of weeks ago, and we walked into this vintage store just to look. And the man,
Hmm.
the owner goes, "Hey, do you know this woman?" It was this woman that was in the news. And we were like,
Yeah.
no, no. He's like, she went missing here. She's a friend. Like, I kind of knew her. She had like
Oh
a
man.
sketchy boyfriend. I'm like, of course she had a sketchy boyfriend.
Hmm.
And he's like, yeah, like they found some remains, but they don't know if it's her. But somebody said like they saw somebody who looked like her. I was like, yeah, well, a lot of Asians look alike to you guys, so it's probably one of those situations. Like, but yeah, like I mean, it happens all the time, and it's always women. So
Yeah.
we have to be
Yeah.
careful. And that's the thing, like going on the road. Like I go on the road a lot, but for me, it's like I don't make anything back when I go on the road because
Hmm.
I I'm not gonna stay on somebody's like a stranger's floor. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
stay in my car. I'm gonna
Hmm.
stay in an Airbnb or I'm gonna stay in a hotel, right?
Hmm.
So it's like it's yeah, like going on the road doesn't make money for me at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to do so much managing of yourself and like coordinating all that shit and like
Yeah, it's a lot of
be
work.
your own travel agent and
Hmm.
manager and
Yeah.
yeah.
So much fucking work. It's like very stressful, but
And yet people are like, why don't you do it?
yeah, it's like, well,
Just do it.
it's a nightmare. Have you tried it? It's a nightmare.
Just-
And like I mean that's so interesting. Like we see privilege in that way too. We see how privilege operates even in something that's as routine and default as the road, right? Like how it's the whole setup and the system is
Mhm,
designed to
mhm,
work for certain people of certain identities, and it doesn't work for the rest, right?
mhm.
It's so fucking
Yeah,
fascinating.
right.
Yeah. So
Yes, it
then
is.
what do you do? Like what is like your favorite thing to do as a comic? Like just local shows or comedy festivals or like what's your thing?
So it's it changes every year. So I
Mm,
think pandemic, before the pandemic, like I'd say maybe 2 years before the pandemic,
mm-hmm,
and that's the fascinating thing about what's happening now. But so before the pandemic, 2 years before the pandemic, was my goal was I just wanted to see if I could like how many shows I could get booked on without like just by being out, right? I didn't ask to be on any shows.
mm,
I was at this point where I'm like, I want to know I need some sort of like harder litmus test for like knowing whether or not I can do this and whether
mm-hmm,
or not I'm improving.
mm,
And to me at that time, the best test was, am I getting booked on shows without asking?
mm,
And it started to happen, and then it was just like this momentum thing,
mm-hmm,
and it was really cool and like really built a lot of my confidence to be like, okay, I think I have a viable career in this,
mm-hmm,
and if I just dig my feet in a little bit further, then I could take this somewhere.
mm-hmm,
So then the pandemic happened, and then I really had a moment of like, well, do I even want to do this? I think a lot of people
mm,
had that, like,
yeah.
because I was kind of getting burnt out. There was a lot of like the pursuit of comedy that was like making me upset or frustrated and just like not happy. And yeah. And so it was really good in the pandemic to just be like, okay, what is it that I like about comedy?
Right.
If I could boil it down to what I enjoy about stand up?
Yeah.
And and I was trying to do more mics and stuff, and I was out like before the pandemic, but it sounds so stupid because it's so like duh, but
Mm-hmm,
like literally I realized what I loved about comedy was doing shows.
mm-hmm, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
literally, like, that was it. It was like, I like shows. I
Mm,
like a show. There's an audience. The focus is on the comic. There's not crazy things going around. Like,
mm-hmm,
it's set up for comedy. I like shows.
mm,
And if I can build my life around like making that the bulk of what I'm doing with stand up,
mm-hmm,
then that will maintain my love of it.
mm,
And because I think like protecting your love of something is the key to like sticking it out long enough to getting something really cool.
yeah,
And so that really has been my goal, and like not to, run myself ragged trying to get this spot and this spot and this
yeah,
spot, but like
yeah,
really trying to protect my love of stand up.
yeah.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you know that Lisa Lampanelli quit comedy and became a life coach?
I did know that. Yes.
And it's because that happened to her. She
Mhm.
grew disillusioned with comedy. She hated comedy by the
Mhm.
end.
Yeah.
And I love that, you like maintaining love for something is work. It's part of the love. Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that you have that a multidimensional perspective on it. Because you know, as comedians, comedy is our first and last love. Like I was just
Mhm.
telling my friend the other day, I was like, I'm not in a relationship right now, but even if I was, like that person would come second to comedy. Like right now in
Mhm.
my life, everything comes
Mhm.
secondary to comedy. Everything. Like comedy is the first
Mhm.
and foremost
Mhm.
priority. It's my main focus in everything. And if you want to continue that love and you know
Yeah.
who and what you are, then you got to do everything you can to maintain it, nurture it, protect it, like you say. And that in and of itself is the love work. I love that. Yeah.
Because for
Mm,
me, I'm like, it's I think the mistake sometimes with comedy is sometimes like really boil to a very small subset of things. And so, like, for example, like JFL,
mm-hmm,
right? Or like being taken on the road with somebody,
mm-hmm,
or like getting a late night special.
mm-hmm.
Like, if those small pool of things are only things that you could get out of stand up, then yeah, maybe you need, I guess, to maybe like follow certain people's footsteps and like just grind, 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 I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But also those things have come to people through like of like weird ways. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some people have gotten late night specials off of like something they never expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so it feels like in terms of like, I guess it's like maybe like more like an Eastern mentality, which is like
Mm-hmm.
kind of going with the flow of like
Mm-hmm.
what is opening up to me based on me doing this thing that I know that I'm supposed to do,
Mm.
rather than trying to push and grab onto something that is not coming to me like
Yeah.
just because somebody told me I should want it.
Yes. 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 And what I love about that is uh, it gives you more sense of agency in all of it too, so that you don't feel trapped and uncertain and unhappy. So, bottom line, you got to know who you are, have a
Mhm.
secure, grounded foundation of who and what you are and what it is that you
Mhm.
want, right? Like that should be the beginning stage. And a lot of, with comedy, a lot of people start out young, like teenagers, like early 20s, like that's when they start. And that's still in formation and development. And so when somebody says something, it just comes right in, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
that could create problems. I started comedy when I was like older. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, me too. Mhm.
I feel more confident in it. I think that's the upside
Mhm.
to it. Like some comics like Bobby Lee, like I don't like it when they have these determinist stance, but Bobby Lee would be like, oh, I saw so and so, like he's really funny, but he started comedy when he was like older, like 25. and he's and he's like, if he had started when he was younger, I think he would have been fucking like a beast by now. I'm like 25, Jesus Christ, you know? And but then I was talking to somebody like Judah Friedlander, and he was like, there's no age when it comes to comedy. You just do it, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, comedy, I'm sure you would agree, is writing. You have to be a good writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
um, even though I wasn't necessarily a comic, I was writing. I was a writer most of my life. So I think because I had that, sort of tucked away as a skill, it also
Mm-hmm.
helped me hone my craft faster and better as an older
Mm-hmm.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Um, do you have like a writing ritual or anything?
Well, now, so I guess I've recently been on a journey to like, um, try to motivate myself to write because I am one of those people who I am, I'm a very reluctant writer,
Mm.
which, I think surprises some people because I think the way that I think and that the way that I do stand up, it indicates writing. It
Yeah.
indicates like, wow, like she's bitch is writing. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and and I've gotten that ever since I started stand up, but
Yeah.
I am a really reluctant writer because and part of it it's related to what I said about like what I realized in the pandemic about what I loved about stand up because
Yeah.
to me the best way to motivate me like I am literally motivated by an instant reaction.
Hmm.
And so that's since that's my motivation center,
Hmm.
that's what gets me in the creative spirit. And
Hmm.
the further I am out from that potential,
Mm-hmm.
the less motivated I am.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's really hard for me to write when there's not if I'm not going to share it with somebody right away or if I'm not going to
Right.
perform it right away. And so what I used to do like when I was first starting was I would literally go to an open mic an hour before it started
Hmm.
because it was the closest time between writing to performing.
Oh, interesting.
Um yes. And but now I mean because I've had to reassess like what even I how I even want to work out material because the one of the unfortunate things about going to a lot of open mics, especially in LA, is that and especially if you're like somebody who is attuned to like what the audience will want, like I literally can walk into you can just see like
Mm-hmm.
what that crowd is gonna like.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, most of the people that are at these open mics are not the people who are at shows.
Mm-hmm.
And even I think even deeper than that, most of the people that are at the open mics are not people that I actually even care about making laugh. But the problem is that I still am like driven by the need for the laugh. And so what's happened is that I have this um I have this tick. I have this compulsion
Mm-hmm.
to do the material that fit what I know that they're going to like at
Yeah.
that open mic
Right.
or do the material in a way like even way that I perform it and say it in a way that they will like.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do that anymore because it is preventing me from getting to some deeper stuff
Ah.
that I I want to get into
Mm-hmm.
and that I feel like I can. So now what I'm doing is actually like, and I was actually really encouraged by Robin Tran kind of posting about like her experience and journey to JFL and like not being able to perform and like you know what she did in order to prepare for that. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this is what I've had a suspicion of that could work and that I'm
Hmm.
trying to do, which is like now that I have the skill of knowing how to perform for people, now that
Mm-hmm.
I have the skill of like even just a comedy ear, like
Mm-hmm.
people, you can never underestimate the importance of just like an ear for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I have broken down all of my material into it's in like this I use this thing called Airtable, which is really helpful to kind of see a
Hmm.
project, and it's like all what state it's in and what
Mm-hmm.
state different parts are in, which is really
Yeah.
cool. So
Okay.
literally I have everything that I'm working on, but it's broken up into, and I can see it like at once,
Mm-hmm.
um things that just need tags. Like, I
Yeah.
love this bit right now, it
Yeah.
just maybe could use some tags, or maybe you can expand it.
Yeah.
This is an idea or a premise, like this
Yeah.
needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
And this is like the concept is there, but it needs punchlines now.
Right.
And so now when I like get in, I try to like every day revisit that and be like, okay, what do I have the energy for? Do I have energy for to just look at something, like add tags?
Yeah.
Or do I have energy to like just write about my life right now, like
Uh-huh.
memories that I have?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's kind of, I guess, in terms of a ritual, that is the closest I have been able to come to like
Yeah.
something, yeah, something that's
Yeah.
more regular.
Man, you're so organized. I love it. And even in your like logical, organized, kind of methodical way, you still got this like new agey approach to it, as in like you're like, what do I have the energy for? You- you're, you're so like you're so SoCal, man. You're so California. It's amazing. It's like fucking
That's
Asian
nice.
people, Asians, right? They do that fucking airflow chart and what do I strategy, but they will literally like fucking flog themselves and beat themselves up. You got to finish this shit in the next hour or else you're a piece of shit. You're a shame. You're a disgrace to your family. Like that's how Asians do it, and they wonder why they're always killing themselves. They wonder why. They wonder
Yeah.
why Korea has such a high suicide rate. It's because they don't do it like Kristal does. It's like, yes, what do I have the energy for today? What am I
Yeah.
feeling? That's important.
I got the idea from a guy who is a like a pilot writer, and like
Of
he helps
course.
people out
Yeah.
with their pilots, and
Yeah.
yeah, he kind of does that. I mean, because I mean, good lord, I if I could finish a decent pilot, man, listen, I'd have $1 million right now, because I just know, like,
Mm.
I feel capable, but I also know like I have so many self-defeating thoughts.
Oh,
And so some of this is just like trying to work back
yeah.
from all of that I learned, that like that I learned incorrectly in my body, in my mind, in my emotions.
Hmm.
So this is really my attempt at managing what is the chaos of that's keeping me from what
Yeah.
I actually want.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always our own selves that are in the way. And it's not even our true selves that's standing in the way. It's like
Hmm.
you see those TikTok videos, it's kind of gross, where like the owner of a dog or a cat would brush the dog or cat and take their fur and then gather it and mold it into another dog or cat. It's like white people shit. Like it's
No.
really gross and weird. And it's basically that. It's like dead skin cells or waste that we
Hmm.
should have shed and thrown away, but it ends up becoming
Hmm.
another image of us and stands in our fucking way, blocking the light, blocking the
Yeah.
other side. And we're trying to get there, but it's
Yeah.
standing in the way. And
Hmm.
that stuff that we had been shedding, it's like, you know, it's debris, right? It's waste. It's like shit that teachers have said, parents have said, any authority figure that was irresponsible in their work have said that
Hmm.
we ended up believing, right? That's what they call it. They
Hmm.
call it a limiting belief, the false lies.
Hmm.
Even our structures like, neoliberalism or colonialism or capitalism, all that shit standing in the way. And yeah, you're right. Like it's with everybody, I think. Have you
Hmm.
let me ask you this. Have you figured out a way to like code switch those kinds of negative voices, or have you figured out a way to like get past them or subside them? Like what strategies do you have for that?
Well, I mean, I guess when it comes to like self-esteem, I like it's weird. I definitely don't have low self-esteem when it comes to stand-up, which is nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to like writing, and especially like I've been trying to finish a pilot for so long.
Yeah.
um I'm gonna say no.
It's good to know yourself, you know? It is.
Like I can identify the source of some of them, and some of it is like,
Yeah.
and I don't say this to blame my mom because my mom has been through so much shit, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of my how I fashioned what I would be, and my how I go for things, and how I like even invest time in like what I enjoy is
Mm,
tied to like how I saw my mom live her
right.
life.
Yes.
And my mom, I feel like for so long, up until she retired, lived half a life.
Huh.
I think she lived, like, I think she just survived. I think she was depressed most of
Mm-hmm.
my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And like, did, like, I mean, in spite of that, did some amazing things for us. And like, we're able to go places and like, do stuff. But like, every day, just seeing her go back into her room, just like need to zone out and watch TV. And part of it was like what was happening at home with like her, I mean, her former husband, but
Mm.
also what was happening at work. Like, she was just daily being passed over for things that she was more than capable of. Like, and so she's like, like trying to deal with the trauma of being a black woman and not being listened to and not being respected in the workplace that she deserves all of those things for, and all of like
Mm-hmm.
the things that happen in her life that like that prevented her from being able to achieve certain things. And so what I got to see was somebody just like doing their best to survive
Yes.
trauma,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to um somebody full what's inside of them,
Looking
right?
for what's inside
Like,
of them.
now I'm getting to see that, and I'm really excited. My mom literally, I saw my mom's taking pictures. She's like at a masquerade ball or
Uh-huh.
something.
Uh-huh.
She was in like Temecula at a wine tasting the other day.
Oh.
Homegirl, it's like a 12-year-old. Literally, I'll call her at 4 p.m. She's like, I'm eating waffles. What? Um,
Yeah.
she's living her best life. She fucking deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I am also at my point in my life healing from
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm.
Healing from what does it mean to be an adult woman
Yeah.
and live from the fullness
Yeah.
of life, as opposed to just like zoning out because,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I relate to it a lot because um I grew up with a depressive mother as well, like very repressed, depressed,
Mhm.
codependent on my father who has like anger issues, like a Marine man, like OCD, narcissism, all that shit.
Mhm.
And you know, I never knew this, but like my therapist sort of put it into perspective for me because what I like doing sometimes, it's a sign of unhealthiness, but what I like to do sometimes is I like to just smoke pot and then eat a bunch of shit while watching like 5 movies
Uh-huh.
in the dark, right? I like doing that.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's not healthy to do, but I like doing that sometimes. And my therapist was like, "It's a form of self-abandonment." And
Mm.
when she said that, I got really emotional because like my whole trauma thing is based around abandonment. I have like
Mm.
abandonment issues because of childhood stuff. And I was like, I didn't realize I was doing that to myself
Mm.
through something I thought I liked doing.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know what to call it exactly. I'm sure psychologists would know, but it's like a form of reliving that trauma, but believing that this is enjoyable, you know.
Mhm.
But it's just like something I'm used to or familiar with, and I think it's a comfort, but it's not. It's it's bad for my body, it's bad for my mind, it's bad for my emotions, it's bad for my spiritual existence and my spiritual being. It's not good in any which way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but then last night I was thinking about this too. I was like, but sometimes I I kind of do want to get the fuck away from myself, you know? It's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you know, like I spend all morning, I do this every morning. All morning I'll like meditate, I journal, morning pages, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. Yeah. And then I try to spend my day more productive, like some writing or reading, something productive. And then at night I'll do my comedy. And by the time I get home, I want to shut down and like eat junk food and watch some TV and zone out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost like, but I need that. I need the part where I kind of, sometimes like kids are too fucking rowdy. You want to just shut yourself up in the other
Mm-hmm.
room and be like, I need a fucking break from this goddamn kids. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm like wondering, like, is that part so bad? Like, if I want to limit it to like a couple of hours at the end of the day after I've done everything I'm supposed to do and sort of, kind of like,
Yeah, I think people that have never done stand up don't get that because there's
mm-hmm.
a high, like the endorphins and
And the
like yeah,
adrenaline.
the
Yeah.
dopamine. Yeah, it's there even a bad show, it's the amount of sensory input that you are taking in. To
Yeah.
me, it's the same thing of like, just like I mean, as I am I am a non-socially awkward introvert.
Yeah.
So, but I can tell when my point is where I'm like, oh, the timer's gone off.
Hmm.
I'm done talking to people. I can't do it anymore.
Yes.
And literally, but people were like, how can you do stand up? I said, because nobody's interrupting me. That's that's why. That's how because it doesn't take energy when you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about being interrupted.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because everybody has an origin story, and I literally realized this year is that everybody thought I was quiet as a kid. And yeah, so I was quiet as a kid. Everybody thought I was quiet, but it turns out they were just loud. um but the thing is I do this exact same thing that you do, which is like I need to step away from processing everything, because you're not just processing like the social interactions that you had with like individual comics as you came in, like like realizing like, oh, this person, they didn't recognize me, this person saw me but they acted weird, and like
Hmm.
they brought in some sort of energy there,
Mm.
like, and then you got to go on stage, and then afterwards you're also processing like, well, okay, I fucked that joke up, but like this one went well. Okay,
Hmm.
this is good. I need to like tune that
Hmm.
in, like dial that down. Like
Hmm.
that table over there had a weird energy. Like, did they not like me, or did they not
Mm.
like me because I'm this, because I'm that?
Mm. Hmm.
And it is not helpful to try to answer all those questions every night. And so I'm
Right.
gonna say I think there is something good about like the distance,
Yeah.
because you can't that I heard that phrase. There's like, I don't know who says it. Maybe who. Somebody says like a well lived, like what is it? It's like like a good life is a well reflected life, something like that.
Mm.
We are constantly reflecting. As
Yes.
comedians, we are constantly reflecting, and I feel like the perfect time to turn off that reflection is at the end of the day after
Yeah.
a show.
Oh, goodbye. Doop. Yeah. It's hard. That's the other thing. Like part of the binge eating for me is also like because that adrenaline and all that stuff is up, it's like my body is like ready for war now. It wants to go and do shit. But I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to exercise because if I exercise,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be awake till 4 a.m., But it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like
Mm-hmm.
your body is geared up for that. So, and I don't drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not gonna go to a bar and pick up some
Yeah.
person and fuck them all night. Like, I wish I could be a sluttier bitch. I can't. I'm not built that way. So I can't. Like all those stories about like rock and rollers and musicians, the reason why they do drugs, the reason why they,
Mhm.
are unfaithful to partners, it's because of that. It's because of precisely this. It's the aftermath of getting off
Mhm.
stage, and what do I do with all this fucking hormones and energy? And yeah, it's like we got to figure
Mhm.
out a way. So today I was like kind of doing morning pages and meditating, and I was like writing out, I was like, how do I shut this off? I don't want to get high and just eat shit and watch Friends for the 80th time. How do I end this nightmare of a cycle? How do I stop this train, man? And the answer was just paint. And I was like, because
Mm.
I paint,
Mhm.
but I was like,
Mhm.
that's a lot of work. I don't want to. He's like, but that, but the answer is, but that is the one thing you can do because it's physical.
Mhm.
It's got both your hands involved.
Mhm.
You're literally creating something for your eyes to take in rather than watching something that somebody else made. So
Yeah.
do that, Grace, and then you're gonna tire yourself out and you're gonna go to bed. And I
Yeah.
was like, fuck, okay, because it's not as chill as eating Cheez-Its and watching a
Yeah. Yeah.
sitcom. Being healthy is hard work.
It really is hard work.
Being healthy is hard work.
I started when I was in the UK. I started having like real issues falling asleep,
Mm,
and part of it was like I was going through a health scare, which I'm fine now. But
okay.
um, the s- the thing I ended up that is still to this day has been working for me. I started using sleep stories.
Oh.
Um, yeah, and they're like there's this app, and these stories are like specifically crafted to like they're just interesting enough that
Mm.
you like want to listen, but they're not so interesting that you like want to stay up to hear like the rest of what happens. But also they literally are built hypnotically.
Okay.
They they're built in like a structure and a string that actually hypnotizes you into sleep.
God damn.
And when I tell you it this shit works.
Mm.
Like for me anyway, like there's a few stories. I've tried several of them, like some of them in the early days when they were trying to figure it out. Like it's clear they were still working out the kinks. But like because there's this one where like this woman has like a very awful French accent, and I'm like, ooh, no. Um, and then there's this one where this guy he mispronounces a word and it totally takes me out. I can't. I was like I can't go to sleep now. You said this word wrong. What is the word he says? Oh, he said he and then the boy riffled through the bag. I said, "Well,
Oh,
no."
oh no, that's a big one. I'm
It's
angry. I would have written a letter.
but all of the rest of their stories that I've listened to have been on point and like
Okay.
literally put me out. Like there's this one
Damn.
that's like a seance, and then one like
Wow.
I'm like helping a scientist with like
Yeah.
experiment. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, but
So it's like kind
that
of
has been like
participatory?
some a little yeah. Like there's one where like she's nav like you get to pick what room you're gonna stay in this spaceship before it
Oh.
goes to over like Saturn, and like you're looking at the different rings of
Oh my
different things. Like
gosh.
it's
That's
I love
amazing.
it.
You know
And
what
the
I'm
some of the voices, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm realizing
I'm gonna
is
send you the trial.
is it in the Calm app? Because I have the Calm app.
No,
Okay.
it's Relax Melodies.
Oh shit. Okay. I've never heard of that one. All right. Yeah, please send it
Mm-hmm.
to me. Um, no, sometimes when I listen to those things, I kind of get out of the state of mind because my comedic brain comes in and I'm like, this is pathetic. I,
You know, Sarah Schaefer has a bit about sleep stories because
I
she's
think
so.
I saw that one. Yeah. But I'm just like, I feel like a loser. I'm listening to talk about folding laundry. I'm a fucking to do something that should come naturally to me, which is falling asleep. Like I shouldn't it's a bodily function. I shouldn't need to have to pay some asshole to read me a mediocre story to fall asleep. It's stupid. It's dumb. I feel like an asshole. I should be killed. If I was in the wilderness, I should be eaten by a bear or a lion, Like that's how I
I think
feel about it.
you have to embrace whimsy, you know?
Okay.
Like
All right.
I see, the
Embrace
thing about
whimsy.
me is that like I try to joke about this because I think I appear very like serious.
Huh.
Like I think people literally look at me and are like, she is reading like she's at home reading philosophy books.
Oh.
When what I like at my truest form, I would
Mm-hmm.
be watching Muppets all day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think maybe there's just like room in my heart for like the silliness of
Yeah.
like how
Right.
ridiculous the paradox is
Uh-huh.
of who I am.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I do look like I have my life together, but I do need a bedtime story. And
Yeah.
like I I love Disneyland, and like I literally I will convince anybody who's with me, and they will
Mhm.
have literally I've had several people say who have been to Disneyland before,
Yeah.
but went with me and was like, this is the best time I've ever had at Disneyland.
That could even be a service, you know? You could even be like, if you want to have the best time at Disneyland, hire me. You're gonna have a fucking blast. It will be in your scrapbook for all
Yeah.
for generations.
Honestly, I would do that
Yeah.
if they just paid for my ticket. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even need to make a profit. I would just
No, no, no. You should charge for that fee, for that service. Because there's so many people who don't know how to have fun. You know, you meet people like that. There are certain people who just don't know how to enjoy
Mhm.
themselves. They don't know how to have fun. They could be in the funnest place on earth and they're just like miserable and anxious. And it's like sometimes they need people like you know? Yeah. It's like those like what do you call those service animals that they
Yeah.
take with you, but you're like a person. You're like a buddy, you know?
I love being
Yeah.
compared to
But you're an actual human buddy. You're like a buddy that is hired, you know? Like rich people would hire people for that. They do it all the time anyway, you know?
That's true.
Their weirdo son who's all fucked up because of their rich parents. They're like, my son needs a friend. Can you be their friend?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for like,
See, that's that now I definitely want money for that, cuz
yeah,
that's I don't know.
that's a service. You gotta charge. Um, and the other thing that came to mind as you were talking about these stories is like I like how you put it. It's like a story that is not that interesting, but just interesting enough to keep you kind of engaged, but half tuned out, which means that it's a mediocre
Yeah.
story, right? Think of how many
Yeah.
mediocre
Yeah.
writers there are in the world. Oh my God. They now have a calling. They now have a function. They have
Uh,
use value. You guys can sell your shitty mediocre stories that your agents and publishers have rejected and send it to these apps and have some theater school graduate read it in her melodic voice and put people to sleep.
yeah.
Oh my God. That's
Aster.
that's her
Aster
name.
is one of their names. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
get her on
God.
it.
I can't.
Aster.
I can't
Mhm.
stand it.
And then Samantha Boffin.
They're like celebrities now. These women, they
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
they didn't see this career
Yeah,
coming,
to
but
me.
they yeah, you're like following them on Instagram and shit. Oh my God. I love this. Okay. And I like how, you have this awareness of how to integrate that fun side, how to tend to your Muppet loving, inner Crystal Adams who's like down with just the fun, goofy, silly shit, and that you could integrate
Mhm.
that world into your day to day because it's not like how society has been dictating to us. It's like you gotta suffer, 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 and then at 65 you retire, and that's when you could have fun. It's like, nah, man.
Mhm.
Kind of like how
Mhm.
you approach your airboard and air table. It's like, what am I feeling? What do I have the energy
Mhm.
for? What's gonna bring me joy? What am I gonna
Mhm.
what it yeah, like what's the thing for me today? What's gonna nourish me today? Like
Mhm.
integrating that into the day to day, I think, in my opinion, is one way of getting past that fucking debris mold, that's standing in your way. I think you're
Yeah.
already kind of doing it. So
Okay.
that's what I
That
think.
yay.
Yes, yes. it's it's in you anyway, all this SoCal shit, like it's in you, man.
I-
Like it's in there. Um, at so okay, at the end of every podcast episode with my comedic guest, I asked them flashcard questions based on a TV show that I talk about that week. So I'm going to ask you some flashcard questions. All you have to do is answer what you would do if you were in this situation. Is that cool?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So the show I'm going to talk about is called One Spring Night. It's on Netflix. It's the same creators of the show There's Something in the Rain, which is extremely popular. So let's say you're a librarian named Chung In, and you have a boyfriend named Kizhuk who works at a bank. And you've been dating him for a long time, few years now, but he doesn't propose to you. And his rich dad never asks to meet with you. All right. And you're growing restless. What do you do?
Great question, because actually, I mean, I've never been a librarian, but I have been in a situation where I was in a relationship where they weren't thinking about proposing.
Mm.
And well, I'll tell you what I did, and then I'll try to put myself really in her shoes.
Okay.
What I did in this case was I just waited until I changed. I think I literally manifested him to change his mind.
Wow.
But I think he actually just said, he was like, I think it was a pandemic. Surviving the pandemic through with you made me realize like
Oh,
I couldn't. I had to spend my life with you, and
wow.
so. But he also had been divorced twice, which is why he
God
was like,
damn.
trepidatious about, yeah.
Yes.
And so I had actually previous to this come to the point where I was like, uh, you know, I want to be married, but I realized like the partnership that I had in him was more important than the paper.
Mm.
And then it shifted to like, no, actually, like, okay, I know he doesn't want to get married, and I know I've said I'm okay with not getting married,
Mm-hmm.
but I would like to be married to this specific person.
Ah.
Like, I don't care about the institution of marriage, but it's this person. I would like to be married to this person.
Mm.
Anyway, and then he changed his mind. I don't know how, I don't know how to account for it. He did. And now we're married.
Oh, wow. I love
But
that.
I think if I were in this I think if I was in this woman's position, I guess I probably am going to say the same thing I said to myself, which is like, what kind of partner is this person being to you? What kind of partner are they promising or showing that they will be to you? And you just decide, is the partnership worth it? I
Mm.
think that's that's the word that was not really in my vocabulary, like growing up, when you like people talk about relationships, and like I didn't really even see it talked about on TV. Like, it's like, am I going to marry this person, or am I not going to marry this person? Are they
Mm-hmm.
marriage material? Like,
Right.
as opposed to like, do you like this partnership? Do you see
Yeah.
this partnership propelling you into the things that you want to be headed to?
Yes.
So I would, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess if I were her, I would I would assess if this partnership is going to take me to the places I want to be.
Yeah.
And then if not, it's time to move on.
Mm-hmm. Make an
And who cares
Airtable.
about the dad? I don't care about the dad not wanting to meet me. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's definitely more of like this Korean like patriarchal shit. It's like
Yeah.
always a thing. The parents are always like in the equation somehow, and it makes everything a lot more dramatic. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why they have all these fucking Korean dramas. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they're good for, really. Okay, so but I love that answer, and I love how you said that you manifested it, by knowing exactly precisely this is the person I want to be married to, not I want to be married. That's a huge
Mm-hmm.
difference that a lot of
Yes.
people don't get. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Man, you're a genius, Kristal. You should have you should have you should have your own TV show. Genuinely. That's how I genuinely feel. Fuck you, Oprah. Move aside. You fucking billionaire white supremacist lady. Move aside. Crystal Adams, her day has come. Okay, okay, okay. Let's say you're a young man named Chiho, okay? You have a 5-year-old
Okay.
son. You're a single father. You work as a pharmacist and you meet this woman,
Mm,
Chungyin. And she's really cute.
mm,
She's funny. You like her, but she has a boyfriend. And you know her boyfriend. You and
mhm,
her boyfriend Kisel, you guys play basketball together. And you
mhm,
see how he doesn't appreciate her at all. And you're really attracted to her. What do you do?
mhm. Ooh, this is so good. This is so good because you got to figure out like how do you navigate the friendship as well as the
Yes.
potential for something.
Ooh,
Um, well, so I don't know how close we're assuming these two friends are.
they're not that
Uh,
close. Yeah.
they're not that close.
They just play basketball. Yeah.
Okay, so he can find somewhere else to play basketball. So I'm gonna say, yeah, we're not even having a conversation with that person.
Mm.
We have, I would say, I would initiate like some sort of either a coffee or like a group hangout,
Hmm.
like some way for our past to like so that there could be like a conversation,
Yeah.
right? And then out of that conversation, because I think sometimes what happens is like men do this thing where like they get I think women do it too, where like they get into their obsessive brain,
Yes.
right? And you can obsess with that person without even having like actually genuine interactions with that person.
Yeah.
And so I think what he needs to do, I think he like I've if I'm him, I've got to set up more times where I'm interacting with her so that I can understand, is this genuine? Is what I feel genuine?
Uh-huh.
Or is this just like, she's just very pretty and she feels elusive and I like the chase and,
Mm.
people like things that they can't have.
Mm-hmm.
And then if those feelings are still there at the interactions
Wow.
and you feel any sort of like
Yeah.
vibe,
Yeah.
then then you take the risk and say have like a one-on-one and just say, hey, I'm going to put this on the table here and I'm going to leave after I say what I have to say because I want you to think about it. And if we don't need to have this conversation again, if it's weird, like I'm totally fine with that, but I need you to know that this is how I feel.
Mm.
So that's what I would do. My first step would be testing it to see if
Yeah.
what I feel is still there after having more genuine interactions with this person.
Wow. I love that. That's exactly the thing most men don't do is
Mhm.
to assess and feel out how do I really feel about this person? They
Yeah.
never fucking take the time to do that. Ah.
Because the thing is like if you see this girl, right?
Mm.
To me there is, I'm sorry, but and I don't even like that I'm putting it this way. I wish I had better words
Mm-hmm.
to put it. But I think there is something unattractive about
Mm-hmm.
accepting something that's beneath you.
Mm.
And so I'm like, what is it that you're so attracted to in this
Yeah.
woman? She's clearly not in a space right now where she's not even attracted to herself. Like she doesn't love her life enough
Yeah.
to like choose better for herself.
Right.
In this moment, she's just going with the flow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's attractive about that?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
would want him to know for sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
is this real?
Right. Is she really worth the whole thing? Because it is
Mm-hmm.
the risks, the stakes are higher since she has this boyfriend, long-term boyfriend and shit.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Were you like a math major or a STEM major? What did you study in school?
Sociology.
Ah, that's what it is. So, okay. You are a scientist. Sociologists are scientists. Social sciences. Yes. Yeah. That's why. Okay. Makes sense now. Makes sense. You
I
know,
mean,
yeah. No, go
I
ahead.
think I think some I think I think really anybody that's been left out of segments of society
Mm.
ends up becoming some sort of a scientist. Like truly, because like when you have to watch as other people get things
Yeah.
very easily and
Yeah.
casually and take it for granted,
Uh-huh.
then you're constantly assessing how that happened.
Yes,
And I think it makes you a scientist. And
it
so for
does.
me, like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't deny some of my privilege. Like my parents like did okay, and like
Yeah.
I was able to go to private schools like
Mm-hmm.
all throughout my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like was, never I never had like a boyfriend in high school. Like I
Mm.
never had a boyfriend in college. Like men
Whoa.
like seeing me as like walking to a room, and it's weird because it's like I don't have low self-esteem. I don't
Yeah.
think that I'm unattractive. Like I
Yeah.
think I'm okay. But like
Yeah.
especially in LA, I'm just like watching like women just fall into relationships, just accidentally ending up in a relationship. It's just
Yeah.
not happening for me.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that in itself turned me into a bit of a scientist in that regard. Of like,
Oh.
I just like was constantly studying and trying to understand like what is happening here. Like I know it's a bit of misogynoir, but it's
Yeah.
also it's also something else. Like
Yeah.
and I'm also obsessed with like like the Brontes and the Dickinson, like all of that. Like I've
Yeah. You have a romantic heart.
yeah.
Yes, you
So
do.
yeah.
I understand. I relate to you completely. You're also the oldest, right? You have younger siblings?
Technically, I am the middle child, but I did not meet my sister or know about her until I was in my 20s.
Okay, so you grew up as the
Yeah,
older
I grew
sibling
up the
then, because I
oldest.
know you
Yeah.
have a younger sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think that also brings on this air of maturity. Like you gotta, stand tall for your younger sibling and for your parents. You gotta play a certain role.
hmm
I That's something I understand too. Like, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. And sometimes I feel that way too, because I think especially in LA, it's like that. It's very like a visual culture, right? Everybody's very
hmm
concerned with how they look, you know?
hmm
Um, and
Yes.
as I get older and older, I care less and less about how I look. Sometimes if I do try to doll up, it's really to make myself feel good that day. It's got nothing to do with the other the other gender and their gaze. Like it has nothing to do with that. And yeah, like I think a lot of men are intimidated by women who come off as intellectual. Like you're somebody I think is an intellectual who has
hmm
this mature air about them. It's very intimidating to men because men are immature and men are stupid, and they don't want to expose those sides to themselves. But what they don't realize is that underneath what comes off as this air of maturity and air of, like high sort of stature kind of thing is that silly, goofy, Muppet loving kid, you know,
Yeah.
right? Who will vibe with that and love that silly, goofy, stupid side of them
Yeah.
and create nice things together. And
Yeah.
that, if you think about it, it's the debris like that the men see, maybe the backside of the debris, but it's like they're creating it, right? They're
hmm
projecting it. It's like, oh, she's this greatness, I'm not, I can't. Is it scary, or
Yes.
like I don't even understand this, like how do I even, you know
This is exactly why I've stopped like I don't like saying in any form saying like men are intimidated. I
hmm
literally because I think that puts the burden back on to the woman to be less
mm,
intimidating.
yeah.
I think it's not that men are intimidated, it's that men don't like women who know who they are. That is literally
Oh,
what it is. And
wow.
that puts the emphasis and the responsibility back on them where it belongs. They don't like women who know who they are. That is literally what it is. And when we say that
Oh,
you're intimidating to men,
yeah,
what we are saying is that there's something about you, and if
that's
you could do something about
defective,
it,
right?
then they wouldn't be intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
they don't
No.
like women who know who they are. They are
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Oh, that's amazing. I used to use this word intimidation as like, well, that's their fault. But yeah, you're right. It's like it makes the woman sound defective. Okay,
yes.
a woman who has certainty and sureness about who she is. Actually, this is my aunt. I have an aunt. She's a librarian, actually. Oh my God, my aunt's a librarian in Korea. she She's real daffy. Like she like joins like intellectual cults and shit and like lives with them in like the mountains and stuff. And I once she has like a husband and a kid and everything, but she's like separated from it. It's like, I'm like, you're madness. I love you. I love you. Be your weirdo creature self. I went and I stayed with her one night and I met one of these like PhD asshole narcissistic patriarchal dudes who was kind of sitting in the high seat. And I was like sitting with her and like, you know, just watching and be like, who's gonna bring tea? And like, of course, a woman goes and brings tea, and I'm like, oh, like rolling my eyes the whole time. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't saying much. I was just kind of just being present.
Mm-hmm.
And he keeps talking about himself. And in the middle, he stops and he turns to my aunt. Doesn't say it to me, says it to
Mm-hmm.
my aunt. And he goes, she seems like somebody who's real sure of herself. And my aunt goes, yes, she knows who she is. And he goes, and he just drinks his tea. Doesn't talk to me, doesn't ask me questions, doesn't want to have a conversation with me. That's just, yeah, that's what it
Mm-hmm.
was. So what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying is like illuminating. Again, you're genius. You need to have a show. Like the people need to know. Oh, I love that. And you know, what does that say? It's like if a woman knows who she is, a man should also know who the fuck he is. I mean, if this is a hetero coupling, a
Mm-hmm.
man who knows who he is, right, wouldn't dislike
Mm-hmm.
a woman who knows who she is, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there are no questions. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we will be independent, you know. We'll know, we'll respect each other for that, right? Like I had to write that down. I was like, Grace, what the fuck? Like, what is what is love to you, man? You know, like I had to ask myself, I was like, all your relationships, man, like what that wasn't love. What is love? Fucking spell it out. What's your definition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know. Came to me recently. I wrote it out. I was like, what do I prioritize in a loving relationship? Comfort, number one. You know, secondly, respect, you know. And lastly, inspiration. Like I want it to be inspired and fun. Like I was like, those are the three things I would like in a relationship. I want comfort, I want respect, you know, because with comfort comes acceptance and all that. Respect means you're independent, that person's independent, you respect each other's independence, and you praise each other,
Mm-hmm.
want each other to succeed. And inspiration meaning it's not gonna be
Yeah.
fucking boring. You know, it's gonna be fun and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be
Yeah.
nice, right? I think having that written
Yep.
down and knowing
Yep.
what it is that you want is also important in approaching love with that kind of intention. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're so
Yeah.
wise. There's a trigger warning. There's some domestic violence stuff in this show, but
Okay.
it's got this productive progressive message behind it. Okay, so
Okay.
let's say you're a news anchor named Ha-in. You're
Mm-hmm.
Chung-in's older sister. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you're married to a dentist
Mm-hmm.
and you're currently separated from this dentist husband because he used to hit you.
Okay.
Not only did he hit you, but he also raped you, sexually
Mm-hmm.
assaulted you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think that that's not possible in marriage. It happens all the time in married relationships. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you can't tell anybody about this because of the shame that you feel, right? Because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a victim of domestic abuse also always have that shame, but also because you're a high profile person. I mean, you're on television every night. Okay. Your husband is also a high profile person. He's a dentist who's made a lot of TV appearances.
Mm-hmm.
You want a divorce from him. You want it to be quiet, but he won't sign the papers. What do you
Mm-hmm.
do?
Do they have kids?
No kids.
Perfect. Here we go. Because it's a different story when there's kids. It's like
It is.
when there's kids, it's like, and you have a high profile parent, then their reputation is also swept up in it
Mm,
because, you know, they're at school, like near, if your parents are known, like it's just like their business is more out there than it would be, you know, had they not have high profile parents.
yeah.
Now they could have a gossipy, like, you know, community, but it's
Yeah.
just, to me, I think you have a responsibility when you have a platform to protect your kids who didn't ask for the platform.
Yeah.
But this mofo, okay, since they do not have kids,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I think my main thing, like if I were her friend and I was talking to her, what I would say and what I would encourage her to think about
Mm-hmm.
is about all of the women who are in the exact same position that
Mm-hmm.
she's in.
Mm-hmm.
And to think about in what way she can either represent them front facing or behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes when they're so in it, the first step in helping them out of it is actually to think about somebody outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually to think about themselves. It's actually to think about like who somebody who would be in a similar situation as you, that you could inspire or that you could help, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would tell her, okay, if you don't want to do this front facing, if you don't want to do it publicly, then maybe you need to start helping women who are in your same situation so that you can get some perspective. Because right now, she only has herself and she only has, and like, I'm sure her friends are like, well, you haven't been through what I've been through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she needs to be around people who have been through what she's been through so she can get some fucking perspective and then make a decision. But I think ultimately, like, the decision that needs to come to is that she needs to take her power back and release herself from the shame. And I think there's no better way to free yourself from shame than to go public with it, to go
Mm-hmm.
public with your part and to go public with their part. And that's literally why I tell the joke I tell about the how my ex owes me $4,000. It's
Mm-hmm.
because when that happened and how that all happened, his assumption after we broke up was that he had done what he had needed to do to honor me and therefore retain my silence, which is a very elevated way of thinking of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When like, but what really, like, but I think there was something subconsciously he knew. So subconsciously he knew
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't going to say anything
Mm.
because it would be too embarrassing for me.
Oh.
But I spent time thinking, why is it embarrassing for me?
Mm.
Wait, it's embarrassing for me because society constantly shifts the blame in cases like this to the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever says, oh my God, I can't believe he did that to you. Oh my God, let's go. Da 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 da. Like, everybody says, well, you shouldn't have done X.
Right.
You shouldn't have been doing XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of our language is tied up in re-victimizing the victim.
Mm.
And so that was the only way that I could initially think about it.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, I have never heard a stand-up comedian,
Mm.
female or otherwise, talk about this on stage.
Yeah.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
If we are known for going there,
Yeah.
why?
Mm.
So I'm going to talk about this because I know that there are people out there who are in my exact same spot and wish they had a way to, like, have a release and a cathartic moment over a painful situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had women come up to me afterwards and, like, just give me a knowing nod or, like, say thank you.
Right.
And that's, to me, and every time I get to talk about it on stage, I feel like I took back the power from the situation, because what's at the end of the day, it's not this money.
Mm-hmm.
This money isn't what is the key. What's the key for me was feeling powerless.
Yeah.
And feeling like without a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So she needs to go hop on her TV show or get a somebody who wants to write a book or write a story on her and just have at it,
Yeah.
like, get her lawyers on it, tighten up the argument so that he can't come back with any sort of libel or whatever the hell, like,
Right.
yeah. That's what I would do. I wouldn't even give him, like, you see this a lot in TV shows where they give them the opportunity to be like, if you don't sign this, I will do the X and, publicize.
Yeah. Right.
Personally, I would just go for it because, especially when you're doing okay financially, it's just like, what's the money? It's a symbol. It's a symbol.
Oh. It is. that's the other thing. That's the other illusion, right? That's the other fucking debris shit. It's like money stands in a lot of people's ways. I can't do it because I can't afford it, or I can't do it because he gave me money, or I can't do it because money, 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 money. But it's like money is such a big problem. It's not a resolution to anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oof.
an aspect of me
Oh
that
my
really,
God.
I despise money. I met up. Do you know Walter Hong? He's a comedian.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Walter, I went to Walter's house to play with his
Hmm.
dogs, and uh we were just talking, and I was just like, I'm not an actor. Like, I know I'd be good at it, but I hate all my, like, the messed up neuroses of a lot of my actor friends. I'm not ever going to put myself in that situation. I would, I'm built as a
Hmm.
leader. I think I'd be good in the director's seat. Like, I like Judd Apatow's career. And I was like talking about things like that. He's like, "So you want to be a director?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I want to be like a cult classic director." And he goes, "So you don't like money?" is what he says. And
Nah.
I was like, "Yeah, I guess I don't. Like, I'm really not motivated by money at all in a lot of ways." Yeah. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I think that's important for artists to not be motivated by social media followers or money or deals. It's like, really
Hmm.
focus on the craft,
Hmm.
focus on the work, focus on what you're
Hmm.
feeling, vibing with. Let that guide you through
Hmm.
the flow, as Kristal said. Hello. And the shit will come to you. Whatever you need will come to you, right? Yes. Oh man.
Hmm.
It's tricky, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of women, and I ask it all the time. I'm like, what comes after Me Too? What comes after Me Too? I ask it all the time because we can't sit in the
Hmm.
rage and anger. We can't stay there because that's no way to live, man. It's uncomfortable to be there. How do we find healing? How do we find productive means of getting past this? How do we help others, right? And I like how you said that this this character needs a support system, right? How do we go and just support somebody whenever, like, some
Hmm.
new cancellation news comes on, right? you know People go online and they start talking shit. And I'm like, what you could also do is just go donate very quietly to a women's shelter or to Planned Parenthood, or call up a friend, one
Yeah.
of your girlfriends, and check in. How you feeling today? I feel like every woman I know is traumatized in
Mm-hmm.
some way. How you feeling today? You know, that is a
Hmm.
nice, supportive, warm, productive means of being a supportive person in society, I think. And that also shows that we have
Yeah.
agency, right? In that matter. Like, there's a lot to be angry about in the news, but it's like, what can I do to within my local reach with whatever I can offer, you know, in
Hmm.
small ways like that. I think that would be healing.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Let me ask you the last question then. So, you're
Yeah.
Chungin. You're Chungin again. You're that main character, okay? You find out about your older
Hmm.
sister's situation. Your older sister, by the way, is also pregnant now. Fuck. She's pregnant. She says she's gonna keep it
Oh,
too. She's keeping their baby. So
okay.
you
Hmm.
you go with your older sister to your parents' house because your sister is now gonna tell your parents what the deal
Hmm.
is, and that she's gonna leave her husband because he's abusive. He assaulted her, and she's
Hmm.
pregnant. She's gonna keep the baby. Like, it's like, wow, what? Oh my gosh. Um, and you hear your dad say to your older sister, your career and status obsessed father, image obsessed father, you hear him
Hmm.
say to your older
Hmm.
sister, stay married to him. What do you do?
Um, go off. I don't know. I hope she went off. I hope that whatever. I hope she had like an award-winning speech. Um,
Yeah.
because no,
Right.
that is not like a person's life, their inner life, their emotions
Mm-hmm.
is worth so much more than a relationship. And this is honestly, this is literally the position that my mom was in. Like you're actually describing my mom, which is like,
Holy shit.
she I I mean, the status stuff wasn't there, but it's like
Mm.
she was convinced by her dad and people around her to marry and
Mm,
to stay with my former stepdad. And
mm,
I think it fucked everybody up. Like
right.
my brother,
Mm-hmm.
his image now of being a man
Mm,
is living off of women.
damn.
He does not, like, that is literally what he believes a man is, just going from woman, like, and now he's literally, my brother is literally homeless, and that was the whole conceit of like encouraging her to stay with my former stepdad, which was, he needs a man in his life, you need to stay with him because he needs to grow up with a father. And it's just like, really,
Wow.
this was the best option? Like, no.
Right. Hmm.
Mm-mm.
And what I'm hearing there is also like that kind of gaslighting, which is driven by their fears, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got this false belief that there is no abundance of good father figures out there. Like what people think
Mm-hmm.
is that the father who's blood related will be the only fucking father for that child. It's like, no
Yeah.
way. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
a younger brother and this is kind of sad. It was like heartbreaking when he told me this, but it was like there was also some like some goodness that came from it. He was like, I went to Barnes and Noble and I found this book of letters written by famous people's parents,
Mm.
and he was just reading that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like getting emotional just like saying this, but he was just looking for ideal parental figures
Mm-hmm.
to speak to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like making me like sad right now, but there are ways around it. If the people that were dealt in your life are not the ones that are the best for you, there are others that you can go and find because you have
Mm-hmm.
that choice to go and find them.
Mm-hmm.
And the world is abundantly full of those good things and those good people that you can go and
Yeah.
decide this is going
Yeah.
to be my role model. This is going to be the person I strive to be, right? And we do it every
Yes.
day in different ways, like uh when we idolize celebrities and shit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we
Mm-hmm.
could do that for like to nurture the inner child in us with other figures, right? And those
Yeah.
kinds of archetypes exist. They're out there all the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
that again, that heteronormative ideal familial construction, that Christian mentality of what a family should be and must be, right? How that rigidity really suffocates and injures
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the people that need that nurturing and growth, the children in this particular instance, right? But yeah, it's heartbreaking what you just said,
Yeah.
and it's a reality for a lot of people. But I mean,
Mm.
you got the wisdom, you know, you have it, you see it. Oh, that's so crazy that that this storyline relates to your own family storyline. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's some of that
Yeah.
SoCal shit, the Kismet shit, SoCal Kismet shit, man. It's like California spiritual shit, man. Can't avoid it. Anyway, no, this was great. Thank you, Crystal. Is there anything you want to plug, or you have upcoming
Yeah.
shows or anything?
Well, when does it come out?
I think next month. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I think, well, hopefully we'll still be running our new show that we're doing called Overdue Comedy
Mm,
in Glendale. And yeah, and then we're getting back to recording soon for Black Car Rehab, so that should be
mm-hmm.
coming back. So
Yeah.
that'll be on all the things. I mean, it's still on all the things if people want to listen. The log is there, so
Yeah. All right. Dope.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, this is amazing. And yeah, Crystal, you're also amazing. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.